We won't be seeing those players now. They're still out for the foreseeable future. We the thing that you can the thing you can't always guarantee in football is the result. The result, win, lose or draw, is decided in moments of brilliance, mistakes, etc. But the one thing I can guarantee on Saturday, we'll see an attitude in terms of an attitude to perform, an attitude to work hard, an attitude to work together, an attitude to do the things that help successful teams compete in this league. And that's the things that we've been working really hard on. We as a coaching staff have done an extensive review of the first 8 games of the season, and because the 3-week break gave us that time to take a step back and breathe and see where we are as a team, as a group, and I think it was a good process to go through. We've looked at the 8 games and looked at what we did well, what we did successful, and what we need to really improve on. And hopefully over the next period of games, the next 3 games, if you're putting them into little groups, are going to be a really good sign to the work that we've done over the last 3 weeks. The players haven't had that much time off. We realised that they needed to mentally switch off for a few days, like every other team in the league. But ultimately, we realised in some of the areas that some of our players needed to work harder, they needed to be fitter, they needed to be stronger. They came in off the back of not having a pre-season. So we've used these 3 weeks to get everybody at the same level and not just have a team that's at different levels in terms of physicality. And then I hope to see a team, I know I will see a team with good attitude. I know I will see a team that will compete better than what we did in the last game.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, let's go to Daniel Nora. Danny, you're off mute.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hi, Danny. You okay?
Thank you for doing this. I was wondering if it bothered you that Rodolfo went with the national team during his injury, and I just want to know if he had communicated to the club that he wants to leave to the Mexican football again.
No, he hasn't communicated that. He's an Inter Miami player. I think I've told you guys 100 times that I like the boy. I want the boy to play well for Inter Miami, and so does the boy. In terms of going away with Mexico, it was a good opportunity for him to go with his national team. Obviously, he's got other internationals coming up, for them to assess him in terms of his injury, to get him out of this environment into another environment, which would give him that mental different environment. And the boy's injured. Let's not read too much into any of the speculation that you guys are writing. The boy is injured. He's been out injured now for 3.5 weeks. He's not been on the grass for 3.5 weeks. So we need to get him back to his full fitness. We need to get him back to making sure that he's pain free, and then he will be a great Inter Miami player.
Thank you, Daniel. Next up, let's go to Steve Brenner. Steve, you're off mute.
Thanks, Jackie. Hi, Phil. How you doing?
Steve, how you doing?
Gonzalo came out with some quotes earlier this week saying how he felt that coming to MLS was going to be like having a cigarette in his mouth. Is he just being honest, or is there an element where it doesn't really do himself many favours by saying that in terms of the league and how he's sort of seen, in terms of effort and stuff like that?
Well, I think the thing that I always think about, when you do it, I think he did the interview with Christian Vieri, one of his close friends and a fellow footballer, and you get into an environment where you speak honestly, and we want footballers to speak honestly and not just give standard answers. And maybe the perception in other parts of the world that this league is easier. But I think the biggest compliment in the interview that I saw was that he said that it's really, really difficult, and I totally agree. I think it's one of the hardest leagues to win, in terms of hardest leagues to win and compete, because of the different levels of environment, climates, the travel, the levels of teams are all similar. So I think he was actually given a compliment. And actually talking really open and honest about maybe his thoughts beforehand about what he thought it was going to be like. Now, ultimately, I think he's under no illusions now, Gonzalo, the work that's needed for him to perform, the work that's needed for him to be successful, and how difficult this league is. And I've known it for a long, long time, about when those big DP players come from around the world, that if you do not commit 100%, if you do not focus on everything, then you'll get found out. And I think Gonzalo's learnt that over the last year that he's been at this football club.
Thank you, Steve. Next, let's go to Kobe and then to Franco. Kobe, you're off mute.
Thanks, Jackie. Hey, Phil.
Kobe.
Wants to go back a little to comments you made earlier about the break. I guess what was the most beneficial part of the break for you? Things have been 3 weeks between games, and for you as a coach, is your first time on the club level being the head coach. What did you personally, I guess, learn for yourself during this, I guess, extended period of time off?
Well, I think I was an international manager and I loved international breaks. As a club manager, I hate international breaks. The break is too long. I suppose if you'd have asked me if we'd have beat DC, it would have been a nice break. You have four days off, you can relax, you can switch off. But from the minute that DC game finished, it was a bitter pill to swallow. We went full 100% into making sure that we will and we are going to be successful. That is something that I'm adamant on, and we've worked really hard as a technical staff, as a coaching staff, and as a group of players. I think the players know themselves. They came back in, we give them 3 or 4 days off to mentally clear their minds, to come back in to work really hard, and they've worked really hard, and they've worked with a focus. It's not been an easing up or a vacation for any of them, because they all know that they need to step up. They all know that they need to perform better. And for this club to be successful, we need a better level of performance than what we've had in 3 games. You think about the 8-game period, and as a coach, you've got to remain really balanced. 5 of the games I thought we played really well, and in 3 of the games was below the level that I thought was acceptable, and that was Chicago, Montreal, and the last game against DC. So consistency now in our performance is vital. The difference between us playing good and the 3 performances that I've spoke about, the gap's too big. You can lose games like we did against Galaxy, for instance, and you can still be really happy with the performance, attitude, etc. But when you lose games like we did against Montreal, DC, and Chicago, with performances that don't befit the types of performances that you want people to do, then you have to do something about it. And the team that I put out on Saturday will be the team that's over the last 3 weeks have dedicated themselves, have worked really hard, that have focused, that understand, that have took accountability and realise what it means or what it takes to be successful for an Inter Miami player. And that will be a reflection of the team that I pick on Saturday.
Thank you, Kobe. Franco, you're off mute.
Thank you, Jackie. Hey, Phil. Good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you, Franco.
Just wanted to ask you about the midfield. I believe before the last game, and maybe another occasion, you've talked about having made more control of matches. Going into this weekend, having had a few weeks to work on things from a tactical standpoint, I know you've touched on the effort and the attitude, but from a tactical standpoint, what would you like to see from that midfield in order to better play against DC United? I know last game you switched the formation to start. So what is it that you're looking for in the midfield to be able to better control games? And if I could just ask a very quick second one, what is Rodolfo's actual injury? Is it a hamstring? Is it a muscle? Is it a knee? Like what is Rodolfo dealing with? Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, it's an adductor hip type injury that it's recovering really well, but it's taking longer than we think, and so he's obviously not going to be available this weekend or for the weekend after probably. In terms of the midfield, I think I'm not just going to focus on the midfield. I'm going to focus on the back line and the front line. For us to be successful, we're going to have to play as a team. The things that I'm asking of the midfield, I'm asking no different from my defenders and from my 2 centre forwards or whichever system I play. So we've not specifically looked at any area in terms of unit work. We've focused a lot on us working as a team, and there's areas in each department, each unit of the team we've needed to improve. And I go back to being. We want to be the hardest team to beat. We want to make sure that teams don't find it easy to play against us. We want to make sure that when teams play against Inter Miami, they hate it, because that means that we're difficult to beat and we're hard to beat. So ultimately, we defend as a team, not just a back four, not just a keeper. We defend as a team, we attack as a team, and we need to raise our levels of performances. And like I say, the players have applied themselves incredible over the last 3 weeks. They've drove it. I've got to say, we had some harsh words, we had some honest conversations, and they've drove the level of standards that's required. And over the next period of games, I expect a massive reaction from everybody. And like I said at the start, that you can't guarantee results in this game of football. But what I can guarantee is attitude and commitment, and a team that you can look up on, hopefully, and say that was a team that was together.
Thank you, Franco. Let's go to Fernando Fiore. Fernando, you're off mute.
Hi, Phil. How you doing? How are you?
Fernando, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm so anxious to see my team play again that I can hardly sleep this couple of nights. Besides so many games, watching the Euros and the Copa America. Phil, I was checking out the previous press conference, and you mentioned the word mentally and mental several times. Today, you did again. A lot of mentality, mental attitude. Do you have a psychologist in your staff, or if not, do you plan to have one by any chance, if it's such an important aspect of our players, of our team in general?
Yes, we do. We do have a psychologist that works as part of our staff. Comes in a couple of days a week. I do see psychology as a big part of the mental preparation for a player. You talk about the physical preparation, the way that they sleep, eat, train. We see that as vital. For me, psychology and the mental side is probably, if not more important than those three areas that I've just mentioned, because ultimately you can prepare them the best as you possibly can. But when they step over that line, they've got to make sure that their mentality and their mental state is clear. They understand their roles, they understand their jobs, they have belief, they have confidence in themselves and the team. And we work really hard on the psychological side with individuals and with the team. And I see it as a vital part of. I've got to say, I think psychology is the type of word that people use that can be a little bit of a no-go area. People are a little bit scared and frightened of using that word. We just call it as part of our training. As part of our training that players go and see the psychologist, or ultimately the psychologist works with myself or the staff to make sure that psychologically we're putting the things into the team using the right language, making sure that we're talking in the right tone at times, and making sure that the messages are all clear.
Thank you, Fernando. We'll just take a couple of more guys because we have players that are ready. So let's go with Jesus Bernal, and then we will end with Salvador Perez. Jesus, you're off mute.
Hello, Phil.
Hi, how are you?
Here from Mexico. Fine, thanks. I'd like to ask you about Rodolfo Pizarro again. There's a lot of rumors. I know you talked about it before, but is there a possibility for him to leave the club?
No, there isn't. And I'm gonna stop you there. That there is no there's no possibility of Rodolfo leaving this football club. He's an Inter Miami player. He's injured at this moment in time. We can't stop the speculation, but the speculation why he's not playing is because he's injured, and he's gone away with Mexico and he's injured. So I'm not going to answer any more questions on Rodolfo Pizarro. I think I've spoke and I've told you how many times that he's a big part of what we want to do here, and he's happy here.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.